Well, Jim, here it is, Sunday, as you and I sit here, Sunday afternoon, July 31st, a beautiful day. I just was out in the sun, out in the pool, having a great time, and I was dreading having to review wrestling with you.
Blow that out your ass, by the way, because it poured rain this morning. I was going to go over to the store and pick up some Sprite Zero, but it just poured rain, and it's dreary and bleh, so your pool.
Well, come on, this is my show. Let's get everyone in a good mood.
I've been watching SummerSlam on a rainy day. How thrilling how thrilled can I be? No, it wasn't as bad as I was afeared. Go ahead.
That was my point. I was dreading the idea of this review until I actually watched it live last night. And this whole day up until we've recorded right now, I've been in a good mood because of it. It wasn't a bad show. There were several things I thought were great.
Your pool weather helped, I'm sure.
It helped.
But no, I thought I was going to be crying because also I watched this thing on Peacock because should we mention Spectrum again real quick? I tried to order just for shits and giggles. I tried to order the pay-per-view just to see what they'd give me this time. Would they lull me into a false sense of security? Because I knew I had the cock as a backup. But this time when I try to order the pay-per-view the traditional way on Spectrum cable, which you should never have, they're criminals, thieves, and liars. They give me the screen, call 1-800-BLOW-ME, and ask us nicely, and then come back here and select. I say, yeah, fuck this. So I went to the Peacock. So I thought I was going to be cranky, and then the weather and etc. But being pleasantly surprised, first of all, by the fact that this was a major pay-per-view that was 3 hours and 30 minutes long, not 4.5 hours, not 5 hours, not a day and a half, not paying everybody in the union overtime, but a nice length for a major show with a nice number of matches. The entrances are interminable, as usual, for anything involving the WWE, but since they're in a goddamn stadium and it's 1.5 miles to the ring, you got to do what you got to do.
They should bring back the ring cars that they had at WrestleMania 3. They were the coolest things ever, and they got everyone in the Pontiac Silverdome from the entranceway to the ring real quick.
But, then everybody has to go at the same pace, and it has some element of a cheesy Mummers Day parade. Remember when poor Bobby and Andre's blown up, and they're after the match, they're having to ride that thing back, and people are throwing shit at him, and Bobby's holding his arms over his head and ducking. I like to go at my own pace. Take your time sometimes on the way out and get the fuck out of there on the way back. But nevertheless, they had you're a target, and if you're the main event, they can't get kicked out and miss any of the show, right? So that's the most dangerous trip back to the locker room is the last match.
Jesse Ventura stole Matilda the dog and took off in one of those cars. And to be honest, I don't even know how that was rectified. But that happened at WrestleMania 3 as well.
Well, from what I've heard from Davey, they were glad to see her go.
It was probably better for the dog, actually, to get away from Davey and Dynamite.
Yeah, can you imagine if it's better to live with Jesse Ventura than it is your previous mentors or parents or whatever they considered? They ribbed them. Two guys like Dynamite Kid being one of them, and Davey, who could barely get himself from place to place sometimes. He'd get distracted. And they've got to shepherd a dog on the road for 3 weeks on airplanes and hotels. And it was a rib back then. The animal or the gimmick that you had. I remember the guys used to complain in Tennessee when they had 5-foot-tall trophies, 2 of them for the World Tag Team title. They had to put them in the back seat of the car. You couldn't get transferred from anybody, right? Nobody could ride with you. But this is a living thing. That's a whole level of, so I'm sure poor Tildy was glad to go home with Governor Ventura. What were we talking about?
The ring cars to the ring.
SummerSlam.
That's right.
No, just the long entrances, but, that's understandable. They had a great crowd. They shot obviously the stadium was not full. It seats like 70 or 80,000 or whatever, but they had 40,000 people or thereabouts. They claimed 48. It'll be 30-something paid, whatever. They shot it well. And that's still the biggest crowd for wrestling ever in the state of Tennessee. Can you believe that? In this day and age, they are still able to set a record like that. Because Nick and Roy and Jarrett never ran stadium shows. They were at every town every week. So
how many stadiums were there? I guess from minor league baseball, whatever else was going on in some of those cities.
Well, no, Nashville and Memphis, if you wanted a ballpark show or a stadium show, even before any professional sports teams, they had the college football stadiums, and that goes back a ways. So they could have done that. And or remember in Memphis, the Sputnik Monroe Billy Wicks match that still has the Memphis record was at Russwood Park, which was an outdoor ball field at that point in time. But it wasn't like a professional sports team or whatever. And they had, 13,007 something paid, and then 3,000 or 4,000 beat the back fence down. And when they couldn't get in because they sold out, because it was only like a 13,000 seat ballpark. But that's the record in Memphis because they never went outdoors. They were in the Coliseum 52 weeks a year. And we've talked about, would you rather fill up a stadium for a big show, or would you rather sell 400,000 tickets in 1 year to an indoor building that you got sweet rent on? So, it's 6 1, half dozen the other. But point being, especially as cheap as Nick and Roy were, they never ran a stadium, and they were in Nashville weekly. In Knoxville, they were weekly, so there was never a big show built up all those years where wrestling was hot in the territories like there were in some other places for them to do a stadium show. So back to SummerSlam. So the ambiance. I don't like stadiums in the daytime, especially when you see them on TV, because it's fucking odd. It's an odd look for a wrestling match when it's daylight. Have you ever noticed that?
I have always thought that about stuff during the day, in the middle of the day, but this was towards the end of the day, so I actually thought it looked pretty good for the little bit where there was.
But it looks better at night.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think it's a cool visual to see every now and then. It really is.
Yeah, I used to like it because I could shoot without a flash and just bam, bam, bam back in those days.
How many outdoor daytime shows did you shoot?
Well, there were a number that they would be at spot shows, out at the high school football field or whatever. There was a couple of times at least when the Coliseum was booked either for the Mid-South Fair, I can't remember what else. They went to Chick Stadium in Memphis, which was the minor league baseball team at the time, and it didn't draw because it was an afternoon. People didn't want to go to fucking outdoor wrestling in the afternoon. It just never worked. And of course,
was it a special show, or was it because they couldn't get in couldn't get into the Mid-South Coliseum?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, when the Coliseum was booked, either for the fair or whatever. And then there was the infamous Liberty Bowl, Great American Bash 86, when the negotiations apparently fell through with Jarrett and Lawler for them to be a part of it, and Crockett ran it anyway, next door to the Coliseum in the parking lot, right? And with every goddamn top name, and Flair and Dusty and us and the Road Warriors and etc. But people were like, fuck you. We didn't see this on Channel 5. There couldn't have been, if there was 1,500 people, maybe 2,000, something. I mean, imagine in the Liberty Bowl, a stadium, what that looked like. It's almost been erased from everybody's memory banks, the official history of Crockett Promotions.
Did you expect that, or was it a surprise to you?
Oh, I didn't expect that. I knew it wasn't going to be anything to write home about when I heard that, first thing I said, Lawler's, we got the cards, right? We weren't privy at that point to negotiations breaking down. But we had done joint promotions in the fall of 85 off the Great American Bash previous year with Southeastern and Memphis, and it'd been the Midnight Express against the Fabulous Ones and Lawler and Dusty and Magnum and a six-man. So I thought, okay, I hear Liberty Bowl Memphis. Holy shit, we'll get Flair and Lawler probably. And then we got the card and I saw no Lawler. I said, well, this ain't going to be much fun, but I never expected it to be that bad. But, people were creatures of habit, as Teeny used to say.
And of course, Nashville's a very different town now, a bigger town, and now they have this stadium, and here we got this big wrestling show.
Well, yes, and they've got the Titans, and they've got pro events or pro teams and all that stuff. And Nashville's now it's a gimmick Southern city. That's their gimmick now. It's always been the home of country music and Grand Ole Opry, but now it's a gimmick Southern city where even the people that aren't Southern move there and become Southern gimmicks. So it's like it's not even legitimate. Anyway.
That's the truth.
Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair. Becky and Bianca. I got to be honest with you, and you called this, Bianca Belair grows on me. After I've got used to the hair ponytail flipping around and her skipping entrance, and she's so happy all the time, most of the time you see her and etc., I've got to admit, not only is she really athletic, she's farther along wrestling-wise than you would think that her experience would dictate, because we looked up what she's only been doing this a few years. And she's from Knoxville originally, so she was in her home state. And Becky is, as we mentioned, she's an all-around worker, athletically, verbally, mentally, psychologically. They were doing a big show match here. So for the first match, and still, I'm sorry, I've got to be that way, for it being the girls, they did a lot of stuff. But with any other two girls that I can think of pretty much in the business, or most of them, this would have been really hokey and really sloppy. This was not sloppy in a botch way. This was sloppy in a struggle way, a contest way. They didn't nail everything perfectly that they hit, but they shouldn't have, because they didn't lose the idea of a contest here. You know what I'm saying? So they didn't just do spots and moves without context or disregarding every rule or not paying attention to what the referee's saying or doing about it. It was a wrestling match. And they dug down and worked as hard as they could to get a big match over. And that's why I say, when you've got a limited number of girls like this that can do this, feed the underneath girls to girls like this on TV, and then match the top girls on pay-per-view instead of the 6-girl clusterfuck matches that just take up time and drag the overall quality of the work down. You see what I'm saying?
Look, I just recently, when was it? It was one of the shows I talked about, it was the Bellas documentary review.
Yes.
The fact that there are women now all over the wrestling shows, women matches, women divisions, and I don't know that things have really improved, and certainly it hasn't caused more people to watch, and I think there's an argument, not even an argument, there should be a really well-funded, well-done women's promotion for the top women in the business. Then you start thinking, who are they? And AEW has some great personalities in terms of workers in the traditional sense, or wrestlers, not so much. But I was watching this match and I had the thought midway through, and I've been thinking this for a while, just Becky Lynch is an all-timer. When it comes to women wrestling, she's an all-time great. She's fantastic. You can't say anything bad about what she does. She's fantastic. And then I've always liked Bianca, but I said, Bianca's fucking really good too. And then I start thinking, who else can I say this about? Obviously Charlotte Flair, Ronda Rousey, at times with the right person.
Hold on.
With the right person, Rhea Ripley. And I realize, whatever we want to say about WWE and women's wrestling, the one thing Triple H and the NXT system have gotten right is the top women they've developed are as good as anyone ever in wrestling. Yeah. They're really good.
And that, that's the thing, is when you find, and still, women's wrestling is an attraction. It's not the meat and potatoes of the matter. And when you find women that can go at a high level, like the ones you just mentioned, then spotlight them. But when you just determine, okay, we're going to have half and half, or we've got to have a women's division.
Non-stop competitive matches. There is no one, other than Jade Cargill early on, there's no one who just squashes over people.
And then you water everything down. And I'm not even talking about squashes. I'm just talking about when you're letting everybody come in and play that are doing the cartwheels, because it's the difference between, being a cheerleader on America's Got Talent, being a cheerleader on a goddamn local junior high school football team. That's and when you water that down, then you do a disservice to the top girls that really can perform, but you muddy their water. Anyway, and Bianca Belair here flips a lot, but it doesn't come off as silly or awkward, or she doesn't come to a complete stop after her round off double cartwheel and then turn around and go poof on somebody. I mean,
she's an athlete. Look at her. She looks like someone you see in the gym working out. She's an athlete.
Yeah. So that's the thing. As I said, they kept it in the context of a struggle, of a context of a match. And they still, I'm not sure about the big bumps. I'm not sure about a lot of the big bumps that everybody took on this show, but the big bumps that the girls take, the KOD on the floor or whatever, and teasing the count out. But, they had a good match, and finally they were going back and forth, and Bianca pretty suddenly, and I was surprised at this till I saw the afterbirth, but pretty suddenly hit that Spanish fly off the top rope, and then the KOD in the ring, boom, 1, 2, 3. And boom, and it was a really good match, but then they hugged. And I'm thinking, well, Becky is a gracious heel. And then all of a sudden, here hits the music, and out comes Bayley and Dakota Kai and the former Io Shirai that's now Io Sky.
Well, no, I think it's different spelling, but it's still Io, and instead of Shirai, it's Sky. So Io Sky.
Well, you owe Sky, he owes Sky, everybody owes Sky some money. He's too frivolous with his finances. But anyway, so they come out and they're going to confront Bianca. And help me now. Bayley, last time we saw her, was she a babyface or a heel? It's been a year. She's been out with an injury.
I couldn't remember before you and I talked here when the last time I saw her was. I guess it was about a year ago. I think she was kind of doing the entertaining but crazy heel thing. Remember, wasn't she like walking through the crowd at WrestleMania the last time we saw her?
But then Io Shirai, I thought, was a babyface. We haven't seen her in a while. Dakota Kai lost her mind and went crazy where she was talking to herself or having a split personality or something, didn't she? We haven't seen these ladies in a while. But out they come and they confront Bianca, and their Becky. Now we know why she was such a gracious heel. Steps right up next to Bianca and is like, well, if you're going to mess with her, you got to mess with me too. So now apparently Becky's a babyface. Big time Bex. Now she's going to have to be humble Bex.
Nah, she'll be the same and she'll sell even more merch.
Oh, well, because she was like immensely popular a few years ago, and then they brought her back as a heel, and we were like, why is that?
And remember, they brought her back as a heel a year ago, and she surprised Bianca. The fans were outraged that Bianca didn't get a fair shot. They brought Becky back and right away gave her the title. So in terms of actual storyline, it's kind of neat that this ran a year, and Bianca finally gets her victory, and the heel says, all right, you got me, and they forget about any bad things that have happened, and they hug, and it was the Becky Babyface turn.
Becky Babyface. Rubber baby buggy bumpers.
Becky Babyface. That could be her new thing.
Bianca and Becky are babyfaces. But anyway, and Bayley, you didn't even remember, because I mentioned this to you before we went on the air, but I said a year ago, either before or after she got hurt the last time, I said, she's a great promo. She may be one of the best female promos in the business, and she ought to, after her in-ring career winds down, whenever that may be, she ought to be a manager. She could be like a J.J. Dillon type in a suit with the top girls and represent them, because many of the top girls are not necessarily great orators. So possibly she's Bayley is transitioning. You heard it here first. From wrestler to manager.
Well, we don't know about that. This is the first time we've seen her in a while, and I will say as a mouthpiece, certainly could help Io Shirai. Dakota Kai could talk a little bit, but Bayley is really good. I guess the bigger story here, maybe, is the fact that this happened. Here's the opening match, Bianca versus Becky. Fantastic match. Let me just sum it up by saying I thought it was tremendous. Really, really good. As good as it gets for women wrestling. I mean, they're great, these two.
All right, down, boy. I need to throw a bucket of cold water on you?
I shit on all the bad stuff so much that when you actually see something good, it's like, okay, things can be good. But when when Bayley came out, followed by, who was next? Io Sky, then followed by Dakota Kai, made me think about the fact that right now we have Sasha Banks and Naomi sitting at home. These three women were all products of Paul Levesque's NXT, and all of a sudden they're back on the show.
Yeah.
What do you think this says? We heard they want to make some kind of statement or various statements with this show, the first of the new era, the first pay-per-view of the new era. And all of a sudden we see three faces we haven't seen in a while that are closely associated with the former NXT.
Well, I'm sure that their relationship under the Triple H regime probably didn't hurt any, but also they want to shock people, or they want to shake people up, or they wanted surprises, they wanted conversation, water cooler talk, as they used to say. This was part of it. I don't think this was a major, we'll get to the major shit later on, but at the same time, they might also be showing Sasha and Naomi, well, there's a lot of girls on the roster, and these girls are having fun here. So, we've heard they want to make amends some kind of way. If it was Vince that they had the falling out with, or Vince that they had the argument with about creative, when they walked out, then now that he's gone, maybe they're more open to discussing things. We don't know what Triple H's personal relationship with Sasha or Naomi is. However, we do know that Sasha probably has a lot more options than Naomi does. But at the same time, it doesn't hurt. It fits in, showing these girls are back. It fits in with, hey, here's surprises. You never know who's going to show back up. We're going to really dress this thing up. But also it shows the girls sitting home, well, we got a bunch more girls here, But
do you agree? Tremendous match?
Yes. Excellent match. I will go as far as say excellent. I don't know about tremendous. Where is it in where does it go? Excellent, tremendous, stemwinder, Donnybrook? What is that, the scale?
It's not my scale, but if you want to use that scale, that could be your new star system.
There you go. A tremendous, stemwinder, Donnybrook, and fiasco. All right. The next match started a trend. Have you noticed that the celebrities and folks from other sports on SummerSlam were more accomplished professional wrestlers than half the roster in AEW?
I know who trained McAfee, but whoever trained Logan Paul deserves a world of credit. This guy has more natural ability than almost anyone I've ever seen in there.
He gets it. And I mean, this is his second match, right?
The second match we've seen with him, yeah. Tag match and now a singles match.
And Miz comes out, of course, with Maurice, because I guess she's the co-star of Miz and Mizriz on the reality TV network. Yeah,
it's his wife. That's why she's the co-star.
Yeah, and that's why they call it Miz and Mizriz. And he also came out with Ciampa, who the standout of NXT has been reduced to a flunky corner man. But Logan Paul, he looks better physically than Miz. But I've been hard on Miz, but I'll give credit to him here. Because Logan Paul has taken this seriously. He is obviously working hard and has obviously trained hard. And he does moves well, but he's still green. And Miz is putting up with a lot to put him where he needs to be, to put up with the stiffness. I'm not talking about a stiff potato punch. I'm talking about a stiff, you want to take an arm, it's like a table leg. You want to turn a guy, he doesn't know instinctively or intuitively which way to go or how to flow with it, so you're having to move him around. So herky-jerky body movements. That's what Miz is putting up with, and he shepherded this thing, obviously, in the ring. But Logan Paul, he gets it, and he seems to get selling. He wasn't just going down and laying there with his face down. He was screaming in pain, or he was looking up with facials. I mean, obviously, he's not fucking Jack Briscoe after 2 matches, but excellent job and great potential to do more, to get better, if he's going to be around for a while with this contract. In the middle, I guess toward the end, when they did the spot with Ciampa, where the referee saw him, it had started, Logan Paul had made a bit of a comeback, which was okay, and then it started dragging, and then Ciampa jumps up and is like he's going to go for Logan Paul, but the referee turns around and sees him and tries to eject him. And Ciampa just gets a chair at ringside and sits down in the chair and won't leave, says, "Fuck you, make me." And here comes, suddenly, AJ Styles' music plays. And again, I know that since he wasn't working on the show, well, here's an added surprise of a star. We love AJ down here in Nashville, but his music starts playing, and both guys in the match are now just, they have to lay there and sell. And AJ, obviously, somebody realized the run-in from the back of the stadium would have been ridiculous, so he came off the ringside barrier from the back, but he beat up Ciampa, and they fight off. They fought off, Brian.
Hey, if this leads to Ciampa getting matches with AJ Styles, that's a step up for him.
I don't think that's what it's going to be. I think it just led to, we want everybody to get to see AJ and get rid of Ciampa, and that's where that was brought in, but it hurt the match, in my opinion. I don't think they needed it. I think, they, except to get AJ Styles out there in front of the people, this was not necessary, and it derailed the momentum of what Miz and Logan Paul have been doing. But then Logan Paul comes back and hits AJ's forearm off the springboard, and they both go to the floor, and Logan Paul's clearing the top of the desk off and puts Miz on the desk and goes to the fucking top and jumps off, what was that, 20 feet? Easily. Goddamn, again, I hate shit like this because it's the same thing as Shane used to do and the same thing that Cactus had to do on a lot of big shows. What are we going to do to top it, right? But, goddamn, it was beautiful. Frog splash off the top rope through the announcer's desk with obviously Miz on top of it. And he hit him right. So, I mean, again, kudos to Miz for laying there while this guy that's had a match and a half in his life comes from 20 feet in the fucking air and blasts you through a table, and then they live. So that's these things, as much as they're big show spots now. And they used to be angles. You used to do the most physically impressive or dangerous looking or deadly thing as the angle that then somebody would come back and have a match over. Now they do all the same kind of angles, shit in the angles, and they do the big move when people have already paid to see the match. But it looked great, but it wasn't, not only was it not the finish, but goddamn, Logan Paul then covers Miz, and Maurice has pulled the referee, so there's no count. And Logan Paul goes to get the referee, and Miz, who is just, like I said, got splashed by a 200-something pound man 20 feet in the air through this table, is up and aware and gets the gimmick. What was the Pokemon card with the chain on it, right? I would have a feeling they've probably taken the real $1 million card off, or was that what it was? Or I couldn't.
It was spoofing that. I think it ended up being something else that the Miz had made, but it was a spoof.
Okay,
of what
it was the spoof. Okay,
Yeah.
Point is, I'm like, I heard him say the chain of that card. He loves the Pokemon card, whatever the fuck. But Miz has the wherewithal to get up, get a gimmick, and then charge and swing at Logan Paul, who ducks, and Miz almost hits Maurice. That at least would have been a heck of a little pop there. If he'd have pickled Maurice off the apron, and then Logan Paul would have schoolboyed him, but he almost hits Maurice, and then Logan Paul hits the, what do they call it, the skull-crushing finale, Dennis Condrey's full Nelson facebuster that Miz has prostituted and appropriated. Logan Paul does it to him, boom, 1, 2, 3. Again, besides
winning over the room.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they weren't liking him much on TV the last few weeks, old Logan, but no, they had to, that effort and execution had to get over with people, and it did with me, except for, like I said, the splash, and then they're just, that was a spot and they're continuing on. It was so fucking good. And also, I think Miz should have pickled him. They're married, so he's allowed to hit her, right, on TV.
Well, I'm pretty sure they don't want to do that, but
well, no, but
you're not allowed to hit. You're not. No, it's not like you're married to someone so you're allowed to hit them. That's not how it works.
But that's the pop of that spot. The heel comes with the gimmick while the other heel has the goddamn babyface distracted, but the babyface moves. Boom, nail her. She flies. And then the heel in the ring turns around into the deal. If you're married, if you're a married couple and you're working, then he should be allowed to hit her on TV because there wouldn't be any ill will.
I don't know if that's exactly how it works, but also she had her tits hanging out. She wasn't going to take a bump.
Well, why was she wearing that if she didn't want the tits to be waving in the wind, flapping in the breeze, whatever?
I'm not sure. And, before I say anything about Logan Paul, I just want to say The Miz is really good. I've come to really appreciate him. For all the guys that kind of do the hokey WWE style, it works a little more with him because he's so douchey. And he's pretty consistent.
With his douchiness or what?
With you know what? We've seen him in several things now where the build up to the match, there's a couple things that are okay. And I can't even cite the specific things, which is sad. And then we see the match, and like, you know what? It's all right. He was really good in there. I like him and Maurice as a little couple doing stuff more than some of the other people they've used.
I like Maurice's little couple better than both of them together as a little couple.
Logan Paul is so talented. He's under contract. I think long-term, he could be one of the best heels they have because people are going to love to boo him. And if he can get his brother involved, even better. I can't say too much else about this. This was 2 matches in. I love the show so far. I was so impressed with Logan Paul. And physically, he's a big guy without looking too muscular. Like a hawk off the gas or something. He's
Rick Rudish.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess that's a way to look at it.
He's long. He's got abs. He's got a thin body, but at the same time, he's muscular and he's got reach and etc. So he's in shape, but of a thinner description rather than a big jacked up bodybuilder.
Who trained him? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. But he's had to have some idea of this on his own. He sees kind of what this is supposed to be.
Well, that's one of the things, I guess. You can have all the training you want. If you don't get it in your head, you're not going to get it.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying. That's the thing is some people, especially people from other sports, that it just doesn't translate. The idea of suddenly throwing out a lot of things that you've learned about competition, instead working together. But, it comes with anybody, really. You either get in your head what this is supposed to look like and your body kind of goes naturally with it, or elsewise you see the people who just don't ever fucking get it. And you can tell those a mile away. Oh, boy.
Where do we go from here? 2 matches in. Were you enjoying the show?
So far, so good, because, again, it's moving along. The matches are good. there's some level of interest, not only from the people, but from me. So things are moving along swimmingly. And then I see the match the first one that I actually was looking forward to seeing, my boy Theory for the U.S. title, Bobby Lashley and Theory. And I'm wondering if basically after seeing the entirety of this show, if Vince being gone is detrimental to one guy particularly. Because Theory, I mean, was there a popcorn vendor available to kick the shit out of him before he left the building? Because everybody else did.
We've been saying it now on the show for 3 weeks, just based off the TV. This is now the pay-per-view. But I don't know if it's as simple as Vince isn't there to protect him and Vince's people aren't protecting him or what it could be. Again, Triple H signed him to NXT originally, but it certainly seems like they're trying to teach him a lesson or something.
Well, and that's the thing is, Theory seems to me to be more like a guy that Triple H would like, his work and his overall presentation, than Vince would, because Theory struck me when I first saw him as an incredibly natural worker who does mentally know and see in his head what this shit's supposed to look like, and his body does go with the flow, mentally without having to sit and study on it, and he gets the little things and a blah, blah, blah. He's a natural worker. You would think Triple H would be fired up more about him than Vince would, and since Vince has been gone, people have just been wailing the fuck out of Theory. Just beating him like a rented mule. So, and this was no different. And before the bell, Lashley's up on the turnbuckles, and Theory comes from behind and just wears him out with the briefcase, right? And in front of the referee, who does nothing, because now they've got a thing in all the companies, apparently, where if the fucking heel jumps the babyface, or even if they just get in a fight, but especially when the heel jumps the babyface, that used to be the jump start, the bell would ring, and here they go with the match. Well, now, because some idiot in modern wrestling said, well, wait a minute. If we don't ring the bell, then the heel can do all this dirty stuff, but the referee can't disqualify him because the match hasn't started yet. So now, instead of a jump start and a bell, and we kick off with some action and a grudge match, it's the heel jumps the babyface, beats the holy shit out of him, does numerous illegal things that would qualify as a goddamn disqualification, but it can't be a DQ because the referee hadn't rung the bell yet. So then, imagine this in any other kind of sport, competition, endeavor, or anything. Once the guy's had the shit kicked out of him by his opponent, and then the referee will, and the opponent just stops, then the referee will ask the guy that's had the shit kicked out of him, well, you want to go through with this? And if he says yes, the referee rings the bell, and then they start the match from there. When did they come up with, has this been the last 5 years or so?
I guess so.
Started seeing this?
I don't know when we first saw it. I guess the question is, if you could do all that stuff before the match and it doesn't count towards the match, would it count towards criminal prosecution if it's happening before an actual match?
One would think. Or at least it would cause the referee to call off the goddamn match and potentially fine or suspend the heel for doing that.
You know, I saw that happen once at the WCW show at the Paramount in '93, the first show they had ever done at the Paramount outside of Madison Square Garden, or attached to Madison Square Garden. And they had Chris Benoit versus Ron Simmons. And they came out there, and for like 2 minutes, they had the place finally going crazy. And the New York State Athletic Commission called off the match. Because of
why? What?
The brawling around ringside.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, this match was not called off, but I wish it had been for Theory's sake, because Theory gets all over Lashley for about a minute, gets some heat, and then Lashley makes a big comeback. And Theory bails to the floor and gets his briefcase and goes to walk out, but Lashley blocks him in the aisle, is right there in front of him, beats him up some more on the floor. And every time Theory would start doing something, Lashley would fight back, hits him with a big power slam, goes for a spear. Theory leapfrogs over Lashley, who hits the turnbuckle. And Theory jumps out, goes for the rolling drop kick, and Lashley just catches him in a press and drops him into the hurt lock. And Theory taps instantly. And the point was made, I believe, by one of the announcers. Well, he knew he couldn't get out. He's saving himself for later. Where later he'd come out and got the shit kicked out of him again. But that's the thing. This was the shortest match. Maybe either this or Liv and Ronda. This seemed very short. Theory beat the hell out of the babyface with a metal briefcase, and the babyface came back to fucking handle him easily. Theory got little offense in the match, and what he did get was quickly shrugged off, and then he was tapped out in seconds by the babyface's fucking finish. And all of that might have been the old style way of making Lashley look good, and then Theory's going to come out and cash in and actually win the fucking belt. But spoiler, that didn't happen. So
did he officially cash in?
No. He didn't get
because he handed it to the referee and then he got hit and the referee took the case, but that's not cashing it in.
Well, no, because I think the announcer made the point. He was about to tell the referee he was cashing in, but he got blasted before he had the chance. But he may have cashed in his chips. He may be going to the big poker table in the sky. But yeah, so as a match, it was what it was. Lashley has needed rehabilitation since that embarrassing business with old Almost, but this is not the way to get a young guy like Theory over by, yes, he does have a cheesy grin, and yes, he does get that annoying, obnoxious heel heat, but you can't make him look like a completely ineffective, feckless individual at every turn physically when his shit looks so good and he's got the tools to be a star. What'd you think?
This was one of those matches, I can't explain it, and it may not be fair, but ever since Bobby Lashley turned back babyface, he's kind of lost anything that was special.
He's out there all by himself, isn't he?
It's not resonating with me. I've hated the way, and I've been vocal about it, I've hated the way they booked Theory for the last 3 weeks to a month. I kind of expected this to be the finish because there's nothing that would have led you to believe that they would do anything else with the guy.
Well, anyway, so next on the SummerSlam agenda, the newly revamped, I can't say improved, revamped Judgment Day took on the Mysterios. Dominic and his father Ray in a no disqualification match. Lazy booking. But in this case, it was not as offensive as a no DQ match would be in AEW because they really just had a match. And then they did sports entertainment at the end, right? But just watching Finn Balor and Damian Priest with Rhea Ripley walk down the aisleway, 2/3 of that picture is fucking fantastic. And Finn Balor looks like, as I've mentioned, an Irish Richie Cunningham. And Edge was so good in this picture. So now he, we don't have no Edge no more in the Judgment Day, which was the point of the whole thing. So as a group, they're kind of bleh. But I would love to see Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley continue together in some fashion, whether he's seconding her or in her matches or she's seconding him or whatever. But, I mean, Finn Balor's a great in-ring technician. He's been there forever. We've seen what we're going to see. He's not a great orator, nor, nor does this fit him in any way to me. I don't know. Am I just being too hard on this because I miss my Edge?
I don't think Finn Balor is a fit or was a fit. And again, we heard that Edge didn't want to be a part of any supernatural stuff, and that's why he left. And we really haven't seen too much supernatural stuff. Did you see the thing on Raw where she, kidnapped, not kidnapped, but she grabbed Dominic Mysterio out of a room full of people just in front of everyone? She just grabbed him and took him.
And carried him away. And it was the highlight was in this package also, or the package before this match, but I was struggling to figure out, was that something because Dominic is not supposed to hit a woman or be physical with a woman, or I don't know what, but it looked like she just picked him up and carried him away, and he was not struggling to get away. I wouldn't struggle to get away from her either. What the hell?
But I don't know if you saw the rest of the room. They were celebrating Ray's anniversary at WWE, so his wife, his daughter, other family members, men, women, packed room. She just walks in there and takes Dominic Mysterio, a grown man, in front of all these people. I couldn't stop laughing when I watched it.
But anyway, in this match, I got to be honest. This is the best I've seen Dominic look. And Ray was looking like he was trying to work like the old days. Maybe they've realized that they've been getting beaten like a dirty rug in springtime for the past number of months. And, but the match was good. All four guys looked fine. Like I said, Dominic, best he's been. Damian Priest looks like a star. I'm ambivalent about both teams because, as we mentioned, Ray and Dominic just have an odd couple looking thing, and they've been treated like such cannon fodder for so long. And, the change in the team. So it was okay. It was good. There's nothing wrong with it. Mysterio's go to hit a double 619 and Rhea Ripley trips them both. And that's, again, wasn't that where she did something to Dominic? She picked him up and just fucking threw him away. And somehow Finn Balor in the ring calls for it. Give me a chair. And suddenly the lights go out. And music plays and shit catches on fire. And I thought it was Kane, but it was Edge. Edge is back. And he runs to the ring. And here comes the sports entertainment. Because now this match was going on and everybody was involved in it. And everybody's, going through their various things. And suddenly the music plays. The lights go out. Edge starts running from what, Brian, in that stadium? Was that 200 yards to get to the ring?
Oh, yeah, that was a long way.
Okay, the Mysterios just roll out of the ring and disappear in the middle of their match, their fight. And Edge hits the ring and beats up both the heels real quick to big pop. Boom, boom, boom. Rolls out of the ring. The Mysterios reappear suddenly, and Ray pins Balor. So it was a sports entertainment type of deal, but the people loved it because that was what they wanted to see, and Edge came back and babyfaces won. So that was what it was. But being the old performer in me, I'm trying to put myself in the position, or the people I've managed or worked against in the position where somebody would have told us and this happens constantly now, going into our finish of our tag team match. Okay, you hit a body slam on him and he's going to roll out and just hide. And then you go hide, and two of the members of the match will just be on the floor hiding behind the apron of the ring while these other two guys go through sometimes a couple minutes of spots. My asshole would shudder at what that looks like to the live fans. Because, yeah, you can shoot around them on TV. I'm still looking for them because they're part of the fucking match. And we're going to get to another example of this later on, but people disappear. And it's not just WWE, sports entertainment. It's AEW. It's everybody now. They think that's a thing. And like I said, you can shoot around it on TV, but for the live people in the stadium, you've even seen fan camera videos with the cell phones where the guy's just laying down there on the mat underneath the ring apron where they can't be seen by the camera, just whiling away the hours that make up a dull day. I couldn't have done that, nor could I have fucking let anybody I worked with do that. That's got to kill the thing live. But anyway, I'm going on and on about that, but it drives me crazy. What'd you think?
I thought it was an all right match. I thought Dominic Mysterio, like you said, he wasn't especially bad or anything. You know, he's so likable. He comes out there and he's got a smile on his face, and you can tell it probably really means a lot. He's doing this with his dad.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to shit on this guy. It really is. He's won me over as a human being just based on how he is on camera. The Edge thing I thought was really bad because they shot it bad. They shot it so it looked really cheap. You didn't just see him pop up.
He was coming down like 8 stairs that, you know, you would see at a wedding hall or something.
Yeah, the only other time I've seen anything that ridiculous is when they gave Cody the pop-up through the stage entrance when they had no stage. So they had to concoct like an 8-foot stage. But it's one thing to see Edge pop up and then walk down the stairs and you're just looking at him. They showed you the whole apparatus. You saw like the back of it. You saw just fire shooting out of random things. It didn't look impressive. Maybe it did in the building, but they shot it, I thought, really poorly. And now this is, in the year and a half or so since he's returned, the 3rd or 4th iteration of Edge we've seen.
Thank God he can grow hair quickly. Because he grows it, he cuts it, he shaves it, he lets it grow long.
Dyes it. It's been various colors.
Dyes it. Yeah, I wish they'd have left him alone. But nevertheless, so that was that. But now we move on to the next round of celebrity wrestling with our next prodigy, Pat McAfee. Jesus Christ. He even made Baron von Corbin palatable to me. And again, this is, how many has he had now? Is this his 3rd match? Or 4th?
4th, maybe?
Again, it shouldn't be this way, but he had a ton of ring time, as we mentioned a few years ago. He had a ring in his barn in Indianapolis and had Rip Rogers coming up to give him personal training. So we know he's got it.
You can have all the training in the world. His coordination is out of control. Some of the things he was able to save while standing on the rope, it was incredible.
Yeah, because he has that vertical leap. And what was it? That one time he leaped up, to do a superplex and got his knees on the top rope instead of the feet and managed still to stand up on it and do it. And then the time he was on the top rope toward the end, he was going to do the dive off and teeter-tottered on the top rope and saved that and did his thing perfect. But it's not all about the stunts with McAfee, though, because he's a personality. And he knows how to talk a fight up, and he knows how to hype shit, and he's got energy, and he's got a personality. And again, in his head mentally, he knows how this shit's supposed to work and how it's supposed to look. But he's always throwing in the athletic stuff. He's like if Shane McMahon had been a professional athlete. Just the backflip off the top rope where he can land on his feet, but the guy shoves him and he backflips and lands on his feet. He shows that he can do that, but it's not just, he's not just doing it to do a backflip. He's countering the offensive move that the guys hit him with. But again, McAfee better after 4 matches than half the AEW roster and most everybody on the independents. And Corbin's work, I gotta be honest, his work is not rotten, but his gimmick is, and that makes up for it. And I think that's why if he had looked in any way more visually appealing and had been in any way a serious person instead of this whole fucking happy Corbin nonsense since we've started watching this, he might be more palatable. He's not silly when he's fighting, at least. But anyway, and Michael Cole, what'd you think about your boy Michael Cole on this show?
I think he sucks. I don't care if Vince is there or not. He's not good at this. He just screams the whole night, just nonstop screaming.
I liked him.
Nothing sounds natural ever.
He's McAfee's broadcast partner, and when Corbin had him down there on the floor getting heat on him and on the announce desk, and then Corbin shoves Michael Cole, and he got indignant. Take your hands. Don't touch me. Get the hell off of me. The announcers have to be happier without Vince in their ear. See, that's a thing that I never had to experience. He started doing that about, 6 months or a year after I left there and stopped doing their television and came to OVW. So thank God I never had to experience it. But anyway, that spot where McAfee went to the top rope, Corbin's on the floor, and he's going to come off the top. He almost slipped. He teeter-tottered. He got it back. But he did a forward flip head first onto Corbin and pretty much bounced off Corbin and landed almost head first on the floor. I'm pretty sure Rip Rogers didn't teach him that. But I would avoid trying to just go head first off the top rope to the floor if I was Pat. But then Corbin runs into the referee and bumps him just slightly so that he turns around and McAfee kicks him in the balls to pay him back for what Corbin did to him on TV the other night. And then I don't know whether that was supposed to be a sunset flip off the turnbuckle, a Canadian destroyer, or whatever it was, but McAfee hit him with it. He got him 1, 2, 3. And that was the most I've ever enjoyed old Baron von Corbin. But McAfee is, I could watch him on a regular basis. He ain't bad.
He just needs a better outfit in the ring.
Well, we can't all be fashion.
Oh, come on. Yeah, you just have to wear something resembling an outfit you would wrestle in. He wears the same outfit when he's on commentary, when he's in the ring. I swear to God, he must wear the same shirt every time we see him.
He's got the Don Fargo Hell's Angels gimmick, where they just ride up on their motorcycle, come in, wrestle, and leave without changing clothes.
I don't know. Steve Jobs wore a uniform every day, but I think McAfee is incredibly impressive. And if you go back to when they made him the commentator, you and I both said, why? If you finally got this guy, use him for something else. He was great as a heel. Now he's a babyface. He's incredibly athletic. He gets it in the ring. I think he's being wasted on commentary unless he just doesn't want to. And I guess he has enough successful ventures that may be it. He just doesn't want to be a full-time wrestler.
Well, and
whatever that means nowadays.
Yeah, full-time once a week. Holy shit. Where's my spare time gone? Actually, I'm not minding it now. At first, I was like, yeah, like you. Jesus Christ, this guy's so good. Why don't they want him in the ring? But there aren't that many good color guys that bring the personality he brings. And if they keep, instead of making him one of the boys, if they keep his matches special, then besides the fact that he's got more money than the federal government probably, with all of his other shit going on, and doesn't want to get beat up at his age on a regular basis, even once or twice a week, and doesn't have to, this may keep it a little bit more special. But then they've got to, they got to watch out for the opposite problem, where if you bring him back too often to wrestle from being an announcer, does that take the edge off his matches? But right now it's still special. And why should he let these knuckleheads beat shit out of him on a regular basis? So I can see where he's coming from.
All right.
All the way from Indiana.
Well, let's see where he's going.
Well, he wasn't going to be the referee of the next match. How did they bring Jeff Jarrett out to the ring to that horrible, canned, generic country? That's not even country. That is it was an instrumental parody of generic, non-licensable country music. He did a fucking song for them. That was a big major part of the angle. Or they're in Nashville, Tennessee. But not only the executive vice president of live events, but their special referee and a member of the Hall of Fame comes out in his hometown to goddamn elevator music. Did you hear that?
Look, I don't think he was going to get a big pop one way or another, but that was the worst possible music they could have used for him. They have so many different options. That was certainly the music that would guarantee no one was going to react.
That was music in Nashville where, and like you said, they weren't going to throw babies in the air. My God, Jeff, he's been off TV for a while. But that was music to be played for a local fucking car dealer sponsor to come out and fucking wave at people. It's like everybody was going, what the fuck is this music?
To come out and walk slowly 200 yards to the ring.
Yes, yeah. Oh, boy. All right, the Usos and the Street Party. I do not get either of these teams as teams. I'm not getting the Usos work. I think they do a number of great athletic things. I think their work is fairly awkward. I think that the two members of Street Party, Private Profits, I think they're both individually good athletes, especially Montez Ford. I don't particularly see a lot of great tag team, charisma between them two, or really see great, what I call great work, great physical work. So from these two teams who it seems like interact every week on television for the last 4 months, I mean, they started out establishing Jeff's authority as a referee early because he didn't take any shit from either team. They didn't break on a count of 5, so he'd pull them out. And then, of course, within the first 2 minutes, the heels get a couple of cheap shots behind his back. But the match started out with the pace of a fucking crippled snail. And I didn't see a lot of the fans necessarily hanging on everything that happened. I notated that they had some great aerial shots of the stadium. At one point, there was the worst simultaneous cold tags in history, where Dawkins, I guess, hit the tag to Ford, and Ford, nobody popped at all because they thought he missed it, because Dawkins dove by and slapped Ford's hand, and Ford stood there leaning over the top rope, getting ready to do his move that the heel had to come and charge in. He didn't acknowledge that he got the tag, and nobody saw it because it's in a fucking giant stadium. But they were simultaneous cold tags. And then, boom, 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 Ford made his comeback. And this is where both partners disappeared. Did you notice this? For minutes, Ford and one of the Usos were doing a single match. And then, when it's time for the heels to tag, finally the other heel's up there and the heels tag, and then Ford's partner reappears magically and he tags. And it wouldn't end because they were going into more shit. And so I said, fuck it, and went to the finish, and the Usos beat Dawkins. Your thoughts?
I did not care too much for this. I just don't have any interest in the WWE tag team division right now. And these two teams have been kind of having matches, and we keep saying they wrestle all the time and then they wrestle again. I left the room for a little bit, so I didn't see too much of it.
Well, there you go.
Seriously, why would anyone care? If you watch their TV every week, you've seen these teams. It feels like you've seen these teams go at it nonstop. Adding Jeff as the referee here, if you wanted it to mean something, the way they built that up, it didn't mean too much on TV, I don't think.
And in the finish, he caught a super kick. And that was pretty much it. I don't mean catch one, I mean actually caught the foot.
That's what happened to the wrestling business. It caught its super kick. But anyway, yeah, nothing else to add to that.
And here's the thing. I've said it before, I'll say it again, so it's all in one place here. With the Usos, I think they're great as Roman Reigns' flunkies. But when Roman Reigns' single opponent, like a Brock Lesnar or a Bobby Lashley or whoever it is at the time, kicks the shit out of both of the Usos because they're Roman Reigns' stooges. But then they come back and they're having a tag team title match because they're the tag team champions. That does not compute. One or the other, both can't be true at the same time. Did you see the shot between matches here of Tennessee's own? Actually, he's not from Tennessee, but since they ran him out of Michigan, he's purchased one of the gimmick restaurants down on Broadway or down in the downtown district in Nashville. Kid Rock, he made news because he was trying to get away from the goddamn mask mandates. It is because he's a right-wing fucking repugnant lunatic. And they still try to act like he's somebody in the music business or has a fucking career or is not as big a piece of shit as Ted Nugent. Every time he's around a WWE event, they got to show him on camera. But he was sitting in the front row with 60s TV character actress Barbara Pepper. Did you see her? The first Doris Ziffel on Green Acres. That was Barbara Pepper. Look at Google her, kids. Not the 30s pictures, but the pictures from the 60s. And then Kid Rock and Barbara Pepper, a.k.a. Doris Ziffel, start fucking French kissing like anteaters on camera because he's got to. And then he did a double fucking flip the bird to the camera because he's such a, a classy character. And they had to fucking black out the screen for like 5 seconds on their. They can't even trust one of their celebrity ringside guests to be camera friendly for 5 seconds. He's fucking sticking his tongue down Arnold Ziffel's fucking mother's throat and flipping a double birds. Piece of shit. Fuck you, Kid Rock, and all your goddamn music you ripped off from other people because all you are is a fucking phony. You're not even a goddamn real trashy redneck. You come from money. Fucking phony piece of shit. All right, continuing. Matt Riddle. I'm sorry, just Riddle. He lost his. You think they'll get their names back? We haven't heard yet. Riddle comes to the ring. He's not medically cleared, but he calls Seth Rollins out. Here comes Seth. Here come the agents. They get a fight in the hallway or the hallway. And then they fight in the ring and Seth curb stomps him and walks off. Why did they pull this match off of SummerSlam? Because Riddle is not really, from what we're hearing, he's not really hurt. They're saying he is, but he's not. And they had already advertised this for SummerSlam, and then they said, we'll not do it. So they hurt him in gimmick. What the fuck's going on here?
I'm not sure why. And again, like you said, they made it sound like there was an injury that led to this. It's an angle. There was no injury, and then they did this angle, and it went nowhere, and it just ended. I thought it was going to lead to someone coming out and wrestling Rollins, or somehow Riddle gets better, which would have been impossible. But that didn't happen either. The only other thing I could think of, and certainly there are other matches it could have replaced, but maybe, and I can't take fault with this, maybe they said we don't want this show to go too long, so let's not have another match.
But goddamn, they announce.
I agree with you. I mean, this isn't the way I would have done it.
When you announce a match of that magnitude with two of their bigger names, then if that's the case, tell the Usos and the Street Profits to fucking go to the pre-show or whatever. I don't know. I'll tell you what I do know. We got to Ronda Rousey and Liv Morgan next, and I'm thinking, okay. I'm thinking Becky and Bianca was great. I'm thinking Miz and Logan Paul exceeded expectations. I'm thinking Lashley and Theory was good what they did, just not for poor Theory. I'm thinking the Mysterios was better than we thought it was going to be. And McAfee and Corbin, well, that exceeded expectations on a celebrity match. And then we've already talked about the Usos and the Party Profits. So I figured this could be the stinker. But they kept it short. And the finish was brilliant. So besides the fact that they tried to have a match where you were made to believe that Liv Morgan could hang with the girl who was at one point legitimately the baddest woman on the planet. When they came out, Ronda Rousey is neither, as we've mentioned before, as over nor as excited to be there as she once was. And you can feel that. And Liv Morgan comes out. I know they're trying to push her, but the fucking belt is as big as she is. Did you see that? It was like she was straining to get to the ring with that thing on her. So it looked like a girl from reform school beating up a Girl Scout. And, so besides the finish, I kind of zoned out. But in the finish, Rousey gets a triangle armbar on Liv Morgan. And there was referee Rudy Charles from TNA, my old friend Rudy. They call him by his real name now. Did you notice the referees have names now? Some of them?
There was a referee who I've never even noticed before, and they used his name earlier in the show. And I said, oh, that's the first time I've ever heard his name. So I did notice it.
Well, anyway, so another positive change. Referees are allowed to be people.
Now, this was not a problem Vince had when you were there. That referees couldn't be named, or was it?
No. We named them all the time. And I don't know where it came from. This is a thing from, 10 years ago or whatever. But anyway, Ronda gets triangle armbar on Liv, and Rudy Charles goes down to count Ronda's shoulders, because Ronda's shoulders are down while she's got the armbar on Liv. But 1, 2, 3, he counts her down, and people start booing, and Ronda's like, what the fuck? And they go back and look at camera angles, and you see that when Ronda had Liv in the armbar, while the referee was counting at the count of 2, Liv tapped out on Ronda's feet, but the referee didn't see it because he was looking at the shoulders. So Liv actually tapped out before the 3 count. So the referee screwed up, obviously in gimmick, but that was a brilliant finish, and they timed it perfectly. So, because of that, Ronda decided to fucking jump Liv and put the fucking armbar back on her, and when the referee tried to separate him, then she grabbed Rudy Charles and put the fucking armbar on him, and has apparently switched full-fledged heel because, why wouldn't she? Because that's where she's more natural, and I think that's the way the people are leaning to begin with. After the initial, yay, there's Ronda Rousey, then she's not the belle of the ball with the fans that she once was, right? So maybe this is going in the right direction.
Yeah, plus Becky turned face. It makes sense they have Ronda turn heel the same night. Keep the baby faces in heel locker rooms even, I guess.
Well, you gotta have some evenness. You can't have those odd ducks. You can't have 7 heels and 5 baby faces. You gotta have 6 and 6. Make it even.
The best we could hope for right now is whatever frustration she's feeling or thinking, someone tells her to put that into her promos, and she goes out there and starts spitting fire as a heel. But I don't know if that'll happen.
I don't know if she's ever gonna spit fire verbally, or spit verbal fire, or be a fire-breathing dragon, but she could certainly have some more oomph in her physicality. Nevertheless, the next match, the main event, the one we were all waiting for, and you're waiting, Brian, because I have not even given you any indication of what I thought of this thing. And I know you and I know all the Cult of Cornette members out there are going, what the fuck is Cornette going to say about Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, the main event, the match, the myth, the legend, whatever? Do you think I liked it or not?
I don't know, because I think there are elements of it you really like. I think the fact that it looks like they may have actually finished this off for a while, you may have liked. The use of some of the gimmicks, I could see you having a problem with. However, my thought was it was such a spectacle. I was about to say a spectacular spectacle. It was such a spectacle, the likes of which I've never seen a visual like that before around wrestling. Sometimes that could be a bad thing. In this case, I really loved it, and I thought maybe you would see it the same way.
And you're wrong. I did not see it the same way. I saw it a different way. And I both loved and hated it at the same time. This was absolutely the worst pro wrestling match for a world championship ever. And it was the greatest piece of business I've ever seen to re-energize the excommunicated Attitude Era fan to actually want to watch this company and see what the fuck they're doing. At the same time, the match was rotten, but this wasn't about a match. This was about proving we can still do shit that people go holy shit about. And that they did. So, because we even talked about this on what the experience. They said they're going to make a big creative splash. Well, there's no free agents to sign. And you can't turn somebody babyface or heel anymore because that happens. I mean, to make a big splash, you do it. It happens all the time. That's why it's not a real big splash, except every great once in a while. You can't, set anybody else on fire. We've done that. You can't fucking run people over with goddamn vehicles. We've done that. So how do they recreate the chaos and the spontaneity and the excitement and the unpredictability of the last time that people were really interested in this shit? And this was their version of Stone Cold Steve Austin and the beer truck. And yes, it was also a creative way to beat Brock Lesnar again and still make him look like the goddamn Frankenstein monster. But more importantly, I think it was something that they said, okay, and they've got the money and they got the special effects team and they've got, it's all in the budget. Imagine if, 30 or 40 years ago, if any wrestling promotion had to try to do shit like this to get people talking, they'd all been out of business because nobody had the budget or the know-how. But for what they wanted, which was to tell not only their current fans, but the excommunicated fans, the lapsed fans, the pissed off fans, hey, this is not going to be a bunch of boring bullshit anymore. They couldn't have done anything else better than this, I don't think. So yeah, it wasn't about having a classic wrestling match here, because they didn't. It was about fucking, please watch us again because you're going to see shit you don't expect, and some of it may very well be exciting.
Hey, before you do your review, can I ask you one question about what you saw?
You can.
Did you pop big when he picked up Heyman to give him the spot through the table?
Yes! Because I thought, here's the ultimate test. Is Brock as strong as he used to be?
Come on.
I'm like, my God, I hope he doesn't hurt himself. And, hernias are dangerous for athletes of Brock's age. But we'll get to it. And kudos, by the way, hold on here 1 second. Wait a minute. Let me get it. Kudos to Paulie. I guarantee you he was scared shitless. Even though he knew, I've grabbed a hold of him to punch him before and he was fucking petrified. If he's scared of me, I know he's scared of Brock, even though I'm sure he trusted Brock, and Brock did handle his goods professionally. Let's put it that way. But bravo, Paul. Anyway, some people have not seen this thing yet, and now they're going, what the fuck did they do? Brock Lesnar comes out, starts making his entrance, walking down the aisleway, and then goes back and goes over to the side of the entranceway and gets on this giant red tractor with a big scooper bucket on the front of it and starts driving it to the ring at 2 miles an hour. Gets a huge pop. And then does his own introduction while standing in the scooper bucket. And then starts the match by doing a Thez press on Roman Reigns out of the scooper bucket into the ring. And here we go. And as soon as they start fighting, they go to the floor. and over the rail out in the crowd, calling Stephen P. New. And boy, if anybody ever wanted to sue anybody, you would want to sue Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar if they pickled you in a fight out in the arena crowd, because that's where the money is, folks. And on behalf of the WWE. But anyway, they fought on the floor, on the ramp, on the lighting truss. And I'm writing at this point, I'd really like to see the match start. And then they go back to ringside, and Brock Germans Roman Reigns on the floor and pulls out a table and sets it up on the floor. But Paul E distracts Brock, and Roman Reigns Samoan drops Brock through the table. And I'm please get in the ring is the next thing that I wrote. And then Roman Reigns hits Brock Lesnar in the head with the stairs. Of course, it's last man standing. So they are obviously trying to knock each other out for a 10 count. And then Roman Reigns sets up another table and rock bottoms Brock Lesnar through that. And I was just thinking, this is getting laborious to watch because they won't get in the fucking ring. And finally they got in the ring. And Roman Reigns hits 2 Superman punches. 1, and Brock gets up, and 2, and Brock gets up, and a spear. And Brock gets up, and Reigns goes for another spear, and Brock sidesteps, and they go back to the floor. And now they're throwing each other through the halves of the already broken tables. And at that point, then, I think maybe they had something in mind. Brock, did you see Brock went back to the tractor, started it up, and then said, fuck it, and got back down and came back over? He may have been jumping a gun. I'm not sure. But he backed the tractor up away from the ring and dropped the bucket and then got off and went back and hit Roman Reigns with the stairs and more pieces of table. And then he goes back and he dumps Roman Reigns into the bucket and picks the bucket up high in the air and drives it back to the ring and dumps him into the ring. And Roman Reigns beats the count up again. So now Brock gets back in the ring, and they're actually starting to use the ring now, the German suplexes. As you can tell, I like the action to be in the ring for somewhere between a third and a half of the match, because it's more exciting and it's different because nobody uses the ring anymore. But anyway, and then Brock hits an F5. And as preposterous as this sounds, they were selling the moves and the effect of the moves in between them, and they'd keep beating the count, even though some of this was preposterous with the, hitting a guy over the head with a 100-pound set of steel ring stairs for an 8 count or whatever the case. They were reacting, and they're stiff and they're cutting each other up when they're falling through all this furniture and they're laying the shit in. So this is a hoss fight. And even though it was a bad wrestling match, you can tell the difference in the way the fans react to these guys and in their, these are the 2 money ball players. From the way they look, from the way they act, from the way they're presented and carry themselves, from what they do, and the way the fans react to them. And I guess since they've had this match a few times now, they just decided, well, let's not have a match. Let's just get to the meat of the matter. But without the finish that's coming up, I would have been highly disappointed.
Remember, I said to you and I didn't talk about the match before we recorded. The only thing I said to you earlier before you watched SummerSlam was, please don't give up on the main event, even if you think you should.
And you were correct. You are correct, sir. So they kept beating the count. And finally, Brock gets back on the tractor and runs it into the ring. And I think didn't Angle, I think, when they redid the Steve Austin beer truck with Kurt Angle and a milk truck. And I think, was that the time where, was it Kurt that ran into the ring with the milk truck, or was it Steve with the fucking Zamboni?
I think it was Steve.
Steve with the Zamboni. He didn't hit it with the milk truck. He hit it with the Zamboni, I think. Nevertheless, he runs into the goddamn ring and moves the ring like 3 or 4 feet. And I'm thinking, and I think even one of the announcers said, I'm in Kid Rock's lap. Please get tested. But then he got the bucket down lower and got it underneath the ring, which I think was the idea, obviously, to begin with. And he lifted the fucking corner of the ring up, and Roman Reigns takes a bump backwards and starts rolling and rolls all the way. It was, what, a 45-degree angle up in the air, or whatever the degrees are. It was enough where you could believably roll all the way out of the ring. That was goddamn insane. And I hadn't even paid attention. I went back and I read the PWInsider.com recap, and I guess it was Mike Johnson, whoever did the recap, said, they don't have the LED lights on the ring posts tonight. Maybe the ring is gimmicked. Well, son of a gun, we found out. And then you look and you see it's one of the training rings, because you can see regular round ring posts, not the big bad boys they've got in the whole 9 yards. But nevertheless, the ring now, one corner is tipped up, fucking 15 feet in the air. And Brock goes out and clears off the desk. He's going to put Roman Reigns through the desk. The Usos attack Brock, and Brock beats up both of them, the tag team champions. And then Heyman gets up in Brock's face, and he's like, stop it. Stop it. He's like a scolding father. Enough. My children depend on him. You want the belts? Take them. And he hands Brock the belts and just leave him alone. Enough. He's thinking about himself. And
how
his
great was that? Yes. Incredible.
My children depend on him. Don't kill him. And then Brock bends over and picks up. It looked like the picture where Bruno Sammartino single-legged Haystack Calhoun in the garden and picked him up in 61. Brock picks it. Paul, do you remember that picture?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
That famous picture. And he F5s Paul through the announce desk. And as I said, he cared for Paul's goods, but it was a nice fucking bump. And now everybody's selling, and here comes Theory. And Theory hits Roman Reigns with the case and turns around, and Brock just boosts him up and F5s him. Boom. And I think we were pretty much done with Theory at that point, right? He ate the F5. The Usos laid Brock out, but he beat the count up. Reigns speared him. He beat the count. Reigns took the briefcase that once belonged to poor Theory and wore Brock out with it, and Brock beat the count up. And Roman hit him with one of the title belts. Brock beat the count. Roman hit him with the second belt. And then Reigns and the Usos just covered Brock with debris, the tables, the stairs, the chairs, the monitor, the captain's chairs that the announcers use. And with all of that on top of him, he couldn't get up, and he was counted down, and Roman Reigns won the last man standing match. And we never saw Theory again. So, as a match, this was rotten. But as a spectacle, as a conversation starter for the disenfranchised, as a statement that we're going to get wilder than the old man would let us, we're going to come up with something. We're not going to be the I'm watching cheese mold television program anymore. It was a spectacle. It was great. So it was sublime and ridiculous at the same time. But they didn't need to have a stinker pay-per-view here with all that's gone on, and they did not. I think all of their fans will be uproariously raving happy, and I think that the average person who has probably blown off a lot of WWE over the last however long will say, well, you know what? That wasn't too fucking bad.
Yeah, you know what sucks? For the first time they have an event like this that a lot of people have good feelings about coming out of, and it's a Saturday, not a Sunday, so you don't have that bounce the next day. Oh, I can't wait to see what's going to happen tonight. You got 2 days now to wait until Raw.
Well, I guess we'll make it, though. We'll live.
Oh, we're watching Raw?
Well, I'm saying we'll live to fight another day because Raw is 2 days away. If they're going to get a bounce, they're going to get a bounce. It's not like, oh my God, I have to watch Raw now because of what happened. But 24 hours later, it's like, fuck, never mind, I'm over it. If they're going to watch, they're going to watch.
When are we going to see Brock again?
Well, as soon as they can figure out a way to get that tractor underneath all that debris and get it off the top of him so he can stand up. You know what they should, if this had been AEW, they would have had a camcorder there to film. About 3:00 in the morning, they're doing the teardown of all of the equipment, and the union crew finally gets all that shit up, and Brock stands up, dusts himself off, and walks off. If it'd been AEW, they'd have done that.
If it had been AEW, all that would have happened, and then Jericho would have walked in front of the camera and bladed himself.
Well, no, I think Kevin Dunn is still smart enough to cover that up on this program. Besides, with the camera work that they use to begin with, the herky-jerkiness, you wouldn't be able to see it. But I wonder how long that is for this world. If referees have names and the announcers are not being browbeaten in their headsets, I wonder how long it is before somebody starts telling Kevin, hey, just fucking shoot the goddamn thing without epilepsy. That would be interesting.
And the words. Everyone's listening for the words. Belt, fan, just all the words that have been banned.
Well, and Michael Cole said, who was it? Was it, oh, goddamn. Who was sitting next to Michael Cole?
Corey Graves?
Corey Graves said, I liked you better when you didn't have an opinion. And Michael Cole said, well, that's changed. A lot has changed around here. So now the announcers are allowed to editorialize.
The rebel Michael Cole. Give me a break.
Well, still.
A lot has changed. Vince is on his phone instead of in Gorilla.
All right. Anyway, so SummerSlam, it was pretty good. Let's give it I'll give it 3. 3 cha-chings. Cha-ching, ka-ching.
That's pretty good on the scale.
Ink-a-dink-a-doo.
Listen, they started off hot. They ended really hot. They had some really, really impressive matches in between from guys that like Logan Paul and Pat McAfee, who were outshining a lot of the longtime wrestlers. It was a good show. For WWE, it was a really good show.
Because you're grading on the curve now.
I'm grading on
they normally suck, so I guess it was all right. No, it was a pretty good show. Let's see where it goes from here. Let's see what old Trips can do for this thing.
That's right. And of course, we are on the drive-thru, and some of you are hearing this on YouTube, at which point we will be ending this right now. And for the rest of you, we'll return to your normal drive-thru programming right about now.